Guess what the main ingredient in victory in your life is?
Discipline.
Yeah. All day. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There's no sweatless solution. You're gonna have to work. There is always weakness to work on. Always. A lot of them. Why would we allow ourselves to make easy excuses? Why would you allow that?
The SEALs didn't beat this into me. You have to have it before you even get there. Because if you're not structured and disciplined before you get there, they can't teach you while you're getting your ass kicked because you'll quit. So basically for me is once you really want to become uncommon amongst the best people in the world, you can't give yourself a way out. A common individual can stay on point for a year and they fall off. That's normal. It's that uncommon person that has, how long here? Well, I haven't taken the day off for 6 years. You don't hear that very often. That's how you start to separate yourself. So to separate yourself, you can't allow yourself to say, oh man, for some reason, I let myself go for a week and then I just have a hard time getting back. You have to put in your mind that I don't want to be that person anymore. For me to separate myself from everybody, that's what most people do. Most people cannot be like, oh, I'm not missing a day regardless, because if I miss today, I'm going to miss tomorrow. And I know that about myself. So come hell or high water, I'm going to get it in. And you have to get the mindset of it haunts you if you don't get it in.
I've had people that listen to the podcast and they've reached out to me over the past few years, and one of the main messages that they took and put into action was actually putting things into action, whatever that was. They stopped eating sugar. They stopped sleeping in. They started waking up early. They quit playing video games for 10 or 12 or 14 hours a day. They sold that Xbox thing. There's people that have quit drinking and quit doing drugs and quit losing their temper. And I've heard from so many different people that have implemented change in their lives. So many letters and messages and notes. And I want you to know that these people aren't a bunch of elite special operations warriors. That's not who they are. They aren't a bunch of high-level athletes or highly screened and highly trained individuals. These are just normal people, really. But they're normal people that knew they needed to make a change. And they decided they were going to make a change, and then they made it. And that is what I do. And that is what you can do too. If you have something to change, if you want to change something, change it. Change it now. When the actual time that you need to go on the warpath and you need to go harder on the warpath is when things are going wrong. That's when you need to dig deeper. That's when the whole idea of saying good, that's when it happens. When things are when you're getting tested by the world. That's when you want to do it. So when you get tested by the world, that's when you get the opportunity to show the world what you're made of. That's when you get to say, bring it on. Bring it on. Oh, things are going wrong? Bring it on. I actually look forward to that, because this is when I get to exercise my discipline. This is when I get to show the discipline. I get to put the discipline to work. It's the moment I have been waiting for. Because let's face it, if things were easy, then I could just sit around and slack off. Right? That's what could happen. When things are easy, when things are going right, that's when you actually can slack off a little bit because things are going right. I don't recommend it. I recommend actually when things are going right, you go hard. But when things are going wrong, you need to go even harder. So, if everything's going wrong, it doesn't matter to me because I'm on the path. I'm going to stay on the path, on the warpath. And I'm going to get my situation rectified. Stat. Other than death, all failure is psychological. Other than death, all failure is psychological. Think about that. Just think about that. This failure, this upset, this catastrophe. If you aren't dead, then it's just psychological. It's in your head. Now, this does not mean that you won't lose some battles, because you will. We all will. But it does mean that as long as you don't surrender, as long as you don't give up, as long as you don't quit, then you haven't failed. It just means you've made a temporary tactical retreat. It means you've made a brief withdrawal so that you can regroup, re-attack. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you get beat, unless you're dead, you are not defeated. You have not failed. What you've done is you've learned. You've gained experience. And you're still alive. And you have memories to make. So get up and go get after it.
I talk to myself in a very honest way. A lot of things I'm not great at. And if you don't have that in you, you gotta tell yourself that. So for me, like when I tell people I know I'm uncommon, it's because I know that there's not many people in the world doing what I'm doing. Not because I'm blowing smoke up my ass. It's because I set out to do this. I set out to be uncommon. You have to set out to be a business person. You have to set out to be an entrepreneur. And you can't just be like, you know what? I'm going to be an entrepreneur. No. Has to be something that you're thinking about all the time. You're kind of born with it. But if the idea just doesn't leave your head and you're obsessed about, man, I really want to get this going, you're not going to give up when the time is hard. So it's the preparation that you put into your entire life that gets you ready for the unprepared. So what does that mean? If every day you're getting up and you're sacrificing and you're pushing hard and you're exceeding these limits every day, everything you do, your mind is slowly getting calloused. Callous is like, so my hands are calloused from doing pull-ups. And you can callous your mind by continuously pushing hard at whatever you do. So, calluses protect your hands. Calluses can protect your mind too. If you're constantly pushing hard, the second this crazy thing comes up and you're not ready for it, you really are ready for it. Because your mind's like, oh, we got harder shit than this. We can handle this also. But a weak mind, an unprepared mind, not like you know what's going to happen, but most people who come into life unprepared, that one, quick thing that happens to you that fucks you up, it's going to fuck you up real bad. Because you're not ready for life. You've never grinded, you've never sacrificed, so how the fuck are you ready for this? So you're preparing your mind every day for those incidents that you're not aware of. Life throws something at you different every day, unless you just don't live life. You just live day to day about, let's pay this bill, let's do this, let's do that. If you're taking chances and taking risk, which is what life's all about, that's how you really make it in the world. Well, my main purpose when I was growing up, I thought it was just to be some big loser. I thought I was put here just to fail. And that was my mindset. Until I realized that my life, my childhood, all the things I had to endure, that they were the ultimate training ground for my true purpose in life. My true purpose in life is to be a teacher. I believe that we're all teachers. We just don't know it. We walk around thinking we have nothing to say. We have nothing to teach. We're no one. And life is constantly educating us. And we sit back and don't realize that this is nothing but a big lesson. I realized it. I took it on board. And I believe, basically, I'm a teacher. And my job is to continuously gain knowledge from my own personal experiences and from my own life. The single trait of greatness is realizing that you're only utilizing a fraction of your brain, a fraction of your mental power. You're using only a fraction of it because your mind is guiding you into the great world of comfort. The mind has a lot of information. Your brain has a lot of information it has to process and decipher and go through and shit like that. So you don't have to decipher comfort. You don't have to do all that shit. Comfortable is just very easy, so the brain loves it. It's like, okay, we have to know math and English, different phone numbers and codes and shit. Let's just say comfortable. I have too much to know. So it guides you away from comfort. Once you start to take ownership of your own personal mind, and your mind doesn't own you, then you start to go into this world of of being uncomfortable and living there for a long period of time. You are forcing your mind to go from a very closed mind to an open mind, because man, now I have to find a way to get through this. And you start to have to open doors. So basically that's where it's at.
We lie to ourselves. We don't tell ourselves the way things really are. And when we do that, then we can't fix our problems. If we can't fix our problems, we're not going to improve. So we have to be truthful to ourselves. I have to be truthful to myself. You have to be truthful to yourself. You have to stop rationalizing, stop making excuses, stop telling yourself little watered down assessments of where you're really at. Tell yourself the truth so that you can get where you want to go. You can be who you want to be. You can be who you should be. Who you should be when you do what you know you should do, when you pay attention to the little things, when you implement discipline, true and unflinching and unmitigated discipline in your life, when you stop trying to find a sweatless solution, when you look for weaknesses to work on, when you allow no easy excuses. And all that starts when you stop lying to yourself. When you stop lying to yourself, that's when you can become who you know you should be. When you tell yourself the truth about where you are so you can make sure you are in the right place. And if you're not in the right place, then you can get yourself on the path to get there. The path of discipline, the path of hard work, and the path of truth.
Somebody is really stressed out. They're not stressed out for no reason. It's because they're focusing on something that makes them feel stressed. They often, when they're focusing on it, it changes the body. You start to feel tight. You start to feel a certain way. And then they use language like, I don't know what to do. Why am I so overwhelmed? So if we change what we focus on, if we change the way we use our body, if we change our language patterns, we'll instantly feel different. Think of how do people use their body when they're worried versus when they're excited. Yeah. If you learn to use your body first, use your focus first, you can literally change how you feel in moments, and then you develop new habits where you start to feel good all the time, and it isn't some phony fake pump up. It's literally the way you've conditioned your body. Just like being fit as an athlete, you want to be emotionally fit. When you're not sure what you're going to do, you're going to hesitate. And hesitation kills momentum. And momentum is what makes a sports team win. It's what makes an athlete, a business person win. When you get momentum, it's like it takes enormous energy to get a rocket out of our gravitational pull of the earth. But out of the solar system's easy. Once it has momentum, it takes less fuel, less energy. Starting a relationship, starting a business, changing your body, it takes so much in the beginning. But once you get going, it's actually really easy. We all have a need for certainty. We have a need to know we can avoid pain, that we can be comfortable. Some people do that when they're stressed by smoking. Some people work out hard to deal with it. Some people eat to try to get that comfort back. If you were certain every moment of your life, you knew what people are going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, you'd be bored out of your mind. So we also need uncertainty. If you have too much uncertainty, you freak out. If you have too little, you feel bored out of your mind. And you can get uncertainty or variety by a great conversation, by making love, by taking on a new job or a new career, a new opportunity. You get a million ways. The question is, do you meet your needs in ways that are positive or negative? Because sugar will make you feel good in the moment, but you feel good long term. Smoking a cigarette will make you comfortable and certain. You see this in great actors or great entertainers. They'll come to me, and in the beginning, they work so hard to be significant, to be unique, to be special, to be important. What they really wanted was love. But now people stop on the street and they'll say to me, they don't even know who I am. They just want my time. They just want this. They want a picture. They don't respect my family. They don't respect it. You'll hear them so upset. What they wanted was the love. We can have both. But the more significant I am, the more unique I am, the more separate I am from you. The more connected I am, then some people go, yeah, but where am I? Where am I special? So finding that balance between the two is what makes people feel alive. And we can meet all these needs in positive ways or negative ways. You can get significance by tearing other people down. Oh, they're lucky, they don't care, they took advantage of somebody. You don't know anything about them. You see people do that with famous people all the time. Why are they tearing them down? Because if I don't feel good about myself, if I can make you smaller, I look like I'm moving up, but you're not, and it doesn't work. But if you do things where you significantly love someone, if you care for someone, you're the most significant person in life. If you try to prove you're significant, then you have kind of the Trump effect. Even people that like him will say, sometimes he can push people aside because he's telling everybody how special he is. That gets in the way of relationship. If we're going to connect, we got to not make ourselves significant. We got to find out what's significant in the other person that we're. First four needs are the needs of the personality. We all find a way to be certain, even if we have to lie to ourselves or just work hard. We all find variety. We all find significance, even if it's carrying other people down. We all find at least connection, if not love. But the spiritual needs are to grow. People say, what does it take to be happy? I say one word, progress. If you're not there yet, but you are starting to make some progress in your body, progress on your relationship, or progress on your career, your finances, you're going to feel good. And when you achieve it, how long do you feel good for? Not very long, because when you achieve it, you stop growing. You kind of celebrate. Nothing wrong with that. But how long after you get that thing you wanted are you happy? A week, a month, a year? Almost never a year. It's a short time. And the reason is we're not supposed to just sit there at the table of success and celebrate for years. We need to grow to feel alive. And everything in the universe grows or it dies. But when we grow, we have something to give. And when we give, people often say human beings are selfish. I've been selfish. I'm sure you've been at times. But that's not my core, and it's not anybody's. And I'll prove it to you. When you're having, all of you at home and all of you here, when you have something great in your life that happens, you learn something, you experience something beautiful, what's the first thing you want to do?
Tell people.
Share somebody you love. Why? Because when you share with it, it expands. See, pleasure is something coming in from the outside. Happiness is something inside you that you share. Ooh. And happiness is what people really want. Pleasure, you get pleasure from alcohol or anything, but some people, it's all about me. When you're taking what's inside yourself because you've grown and you're giving to someone you love, your children, a friend, a girlfriend, boyfriend, a coworker, anybody, there's an aliveness you can't feel by yourself. There's only so much pleasure you can feel. Happiness and joy comes when that expansion is shared. If you want a breakthrough, not just a little change, you can change laterally. You can go from being pissed off to frustrated.
Right.
Doesn't help you much, right? But if you really want to change, most people are trying to change. Say you want to lose weight, they want to make money. They go, how do I do it? They look for the strategy. But I'd like you to think of 3 S's. Strategy is where most people go first. Like, how do I do it? But how hard is it really truly to be fit and have energy? It's not that complex. It's not like reserved for the 1% or expensive to learn. You have to interrupt. You have to hide from answers to those things. The real problem is the second S, story. They have a story that says it's a set of beliefs they tell themselves over and again. I've tried everything. Or if they're single, all the good ones are gone. Whatever the story is. And if you tell yourself a story over and over again, so we convince ourselves. You always come up with a lousy story when you're in a lousy state. And so the number one thing I show people to do is how to change their emotional state. When you're feeling tired or frustrated, you learn how to change your body so that you really feel excited and isn't fake. When you learn how to change your biochemistry, which is what I teach people to do. When you're upset with someone, do you ever notice how you can now remember everything that they've ever done that ever upset you, right? But when you're in love, what's wrong with life? What's wrong with anything? When you're in love, we have no money. Who cares? We're in love, right? So your emotional state controls the story you have about your life, and then your story determines whether you find a strategy, or even if you know the strategy, whether you really do it or not. When people say I tried, what they're really telling me is I have a story that says I should try this, but it's really not going to work. So I give it a half-reared attempt and it didn't work, and now I can tell people I tried. What you really got to do is learn to change your emotion, your state, change your story, and then you can find the strategy, or you can make the strategy to work. I constantly believe you got to feed your mind and challenge your body, because the mind-body works together. What stops people, as we said, is fear. Well, fear is physical. You feel it in your throat, your gut. But if you do something really physically strong on a regular basis, you develop a new emotional habit. And that emotional habit will get you to follow through and do things differently that people don't do. It's really not that complex. There are a few habits in your life that truly could change your whole life. I start every single day with this process called priming, training my brain to be in a peak state. So what I do every day is I prime myself for what I want rather than letting the environment control me. We've all had times when you snapped at somebody and you felt bad because it wasn't them, it was the state you're in, right? Well, there's no excuse for that. If you prime yourself, you set yourself up. But the way I did it is I do this process. It's 10 minutes, I put some music on, I do this massive change in my breathing so it radically changes the way I feel. And then I do this 3-step process. First, I do 3 minutes of gratitude where I think of 3 things I'm really grateful for, and I associate. I don't think of it up there, I feel it. And the reason is, when you're grateful, you can't be worried. You can't be fearful. When you're grateful, you can't be angry. And anger and fear are what screw people up most in their relationships, in their life, in their business. So I wire myself. I was saying to you that most people want to be happy, but their habit is to be worried or pissed off or frustrated or stressed. And so they've got a highway to stress and they got a dirt road to happiness. So I wire myself. I've got a highway to gratitude, which changes all your emotions. And then I do a 3-minute process of kind of a prayer for my family and friends. And then I do a 3-minute process of the top 3 things I want to accomplish. I see it as done and I feel it. I'm done in 10 minutes. So sometimes I go 20, but my deal is 10, so there's no excuse not to do it. In people's lives, there's only maybe a half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter. Most people, they major in minor things. They focus on stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about this celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. But I look at and say, if you look at your body, without that, everything else is out the door. You don't want to be richest man in the graveyard. That's not going to do it. If there's energy, if there's vitality, if there's strength, it's going to show up in your relationship. It's going to show up in your business, show up in your life. That's an area you got to master. You can't dabble. It's too important. Emotions are everything. I mean, you got a ton of money, you got everybody loves you, and your primary emotions are pissed off and frustrated, then your life's pissed off and frustrated. It doesn't matter if you got $1 billion or 1 million people loving you, your life is not great. Relationships, intimate relationships especially. It's where the most juice in life comes from. It's where the most pain comes from most people. It's worth mastering instead of dabbling. Really looking at what are you going to do with your time? And mastering your time. Instead of having a checklist, you cross it all off. You can mistake movement for achievement. I want to squeeze out of that time what matters, that creates value for me and for everyone I care about and love. What about your career or your business and the mastery of that instead of dabbling? Most businesses are dabblers. That's why they don't make it. 96%, in any 10-year period of time, 4% make it. That doesn't even mean they're profitable. And it does not mean they're enjoying themselves, all right? Or they're getting anybody else to feel good. Really mastering money, so that it's not a question in your life. You can do and be and give and share as much as you want. You're not stressed about it. You live in a place of abundance. And then spiritually, really, I think I don't tell people what to believe spiritually, but I believe that ultimately, whatever you believe, you got to live it, and it should lead to growing and giving. If you're growing, you feel alive. If you're giving, you feel 10 times more alive. And I think if someone can celebrate and give, then that's spiritual state. So to me, those are the areas I look at mastering. Business for sure, but it's the areas of life that matter most. And most of where we spend our time doesn't make people feel fulfilled. That's why the average person is not fit and healthy. The average person is not in a relationship where they have tremendous passion. I'm not a dummy. I'm not a positive thinker. I know the truth. The average person is not successful in business. The average person is not earning what they want to earn. But you know what? Very few people have those things, but a few do. A few are happy, fulfilled, spiritually alive, financially strong, their business is growing, they have passionate love affairs, and I'm obsessed with finding the few who do and find out what they do different and teaching to everybody. Everyone's going to measure themselves differently because everyone values things differently. Some people value success or significance. Some people value love more. Some value just basic levels of certainty. So when I look at the specific metrics, I really look at metrics of what are the things that need to be measured to know if your life is going to work or not. So I look at it as our whole lives are guided moment to moment by the state we're in. Learning how to change your state, not bullshit, not fake, but to go from pissed off, frustrated, freaked out to back in your center or creative or determined or something that's going to move you forward. It's going to create a better quality of life for you and others. That's a critical skill set. So moment to moment, our life's controlled by our states. Yep. If you're in an angry state, you're going to respond differently than if you're feeling playful. But what controls those states long term is your model of the world, your worldview. And I look at that as having, as a metric, 3 things that I look at. I look to see first, what are the targets you're after? The target is, everyone has different goals and dreams and desires. But as I traveled around the world to 100 countries, I started going, holy shit, I'm seeing the same problems. What's underneath it? I began to see that there are these same 6 human needs that we all have, the same needs. We all have a need for certainty, that we can avoid pain and we can have some pleasure, some comfort. We all need uncertainty. We need variety or we feel dead inside. If you're totally certain, you're bored. If you have total variety, you're like freak out. And it's not a balance. It's learning which of these you need more as a person. Everyone's developed a different set of values in that area. The need for significance, to feel unique, special, important. The need to feel loved, the need to grow, and the need to contribute. Some people value certainty at the top of their list. That's their center of their target. I don't want to do anything unless I know it's going to work. I don't want to do anything unless it's the same. If you change anything, they freak out. If certainty is the number one thing on your list, everyone has the same needs, but if it's number one, I know how your life's going to be. I can predict the direction of your life and therefore the destination to some extent. If you're driven by love first, you want certainty too, but love is higher, you're going to behave very differently than if you're driven by significance. I have to be the one. So I look to see which of those needs are the top 2 on your list because they control your life. The 2 that most people have, 90% of the planet, if you said, of all these needs, which one do you really focus on most day to day? Everybody wants love, but what do you focus on? Most people focus on being significant. We live in a Facebook world where people fake their life, put new filters, make it look different than it really is, tell stories that, are totally full of it to make themselves look good. Because we live in this kind of false world where significance is more important than love. And it separates us. And the other one that we see most often is certainty. People want to be certain before they can do something. You couldn't have started a business like you had if you were absolutely certain before you started. You can never build a business with that. You can never build a great relationship because if it's based on certainty, then everybody's got to stay the same and never change, which means you're never going to grow, which means you're going to be miserable. Right. So my metrics are, I want to find out what's driving you. And I want to see, is it healthy or unhealthy? You can have 2 people be driven by significance though, and do it with a different set of rules. That's the second piece I measure. The beliefs or rules of how to fulfill that target. But I want to be more clear about something. An extraordinary life is life on your terms, and there's 2 parts. Part 1 to have an extraordinary life is mastering the skill of the science of achievement. How do I take what I envision and make it real? And how do I do that quicker, faster, better, easier? The ability to manifest what you come up with and make it real, like you've done with your company, yes. That's a skill set. I spend an unbelievable amount of time helping people do it faster, quicker, better, showing them the shortcuts, teaching them the strategies, modeling what works so you can save yourself a decade. But I would submit to you that having done this for 38 years with, 50 million people at this stage, I can tell you that the science of achievement, there are a lot of people that are damn good at that. and they still don't have an extraordinary life. They have an extraordinary life. You see it as extraordinary, but I get the phone call from the multi-billionaire who tells me he wants to do this thing on his business, but what he really find out is he's miserable as hell, and he's hoping somehow I'm going to rub off on him on that side too. And so I give him what he asked for, the change in his business, but I also give him what he needs, which is the change inside of him. So the second skill is the art of fulfillment. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't just achieve, you got to be fulfilled. As simplistic as that sounds, but it's an art. It's not a science. It's a science to making money, come on. Any age, any color, any background, any gender, if you do these things, you'll have an abundance of money. You do these things, you're gonna have too much month at the end of the money. You're gonna have financial stress, right? Body. Everyone's biochemically different, but you and I both know there's fundamental rules, laws. There's a science to the body. You violate that science, you're gonna have disease, you're gonna have low energy. You align with that, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. It's gonna affect everything in your life. It's a science. Fulfillment's not like that. Fulfillment is as different as our human beings. You wanna know what God or the universe likes? Look at the jungle, look at the forest. It's diverse, right? So most people think, well, I want to get that because they've been modeling somebody else, and that might work on how to achieve something. It'll never work for what to fulfill you. How many people you know, like you, got what you thought you wanted and you weren't fulfilled? And that, I always tell people, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure, because if you go at something and you fail and you're an achiever, you don't fail. You want to learn something, I'll just try something else. I'm going to still get there. But when you succeed and you're not happy. So a perfect example of this, I mentioned in the seminar you were there because it hit me. We lost what I consider a national treasure, Robin Williams. And I asked people, how many of you love Robin Williams? Everybody raising hand all around the world, right? He made people laugh. People were touched by him. So how good was he at the science of achievement? I mean, he wanted to be a great comedian and make the whole world laugh. He did. He wanted to have his own TV show. He did. He wanted the #1 show. He did it. He wanted to make movies. He did. He wanted to have an Academy Award for not being funny, dramatic, and he did it, right? He did it, yeah. He said he wanted a beautiful family. He achieved everything, and he hung himself. That's crazy. And I know recently someone's saying, well, you know, he had dementia. He had drug abuse. He had alcohol abuse most of his life because he made everybody happy but whom? Himself. That's the ultimate failure. So if I had no other message to offer your viewers, and you let me give it to them right now, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force, decisions. I certainly believe in force greater than myself. Call it God if you will, grace, whatever you want to call it, the universe. But I also believe it gives us choices. And the decisions we make control us much more than the conditions we meet. It's not the conditions, it's your decisions. Decisions of what to believe, decisions of what to do, decisions of what to give. I say to people, think about, you know, look back 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, and think of a decision you made. That if you would have made a different decision, you'd have a totally different life today. Better or worse, I don't know, but totally different. The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're going to live in a beautiful state. The decision to say, I am not going to suffer, that if suffering arises, pain's one thing, suffering's another. Suffering is when you're like, suffering could be worry, it could be anger, it could be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you want to serve greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it in an instant because the nature of the human mind is to constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2 million year old device, and it is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. Right. And that's why it's always looking for what's wrong. But it used to be what's wrong, a saber-toothed tiger, so I can protect myself. And now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money when 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, and you're making $38,000, you're rich. The poorest of the poor in our country are considered rich. I'm not saying they should stay that way. Right. But you can only build on success. My goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take awe in a sunset. You'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait? Right. Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
You know, you're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all.
Right.
I'm gonna live in a beautiful state. Because here's what's gonna happen. Anybody watching, you may lose a family member, you probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business the government might change the rules. They might change things radically that you can't even do anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. Let's say anybody will, but no one knows what's gonna really happen in your life. Life's full of uncertainty, but here's what you can know. You can decide that what happens, you could have a great time. If somebody like Viktor Frankl can be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that and experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz, then human beings have a capacity they've undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband or your wife or your kids or your coworkers or whoever, your boss, has to behave a certain way for you to be happy, and if they don't, you're unhappy, then you're always going to be unhappy, because the more people around you, the more they're going to change that, because they're all human. My invitation is, as great as it is to achieve, more important to enjoy. And if you can enjoy every moment in that state, when you're feeling loving and playful and passionate and curious and awe, you treat other people 100 times better than when you're feeling frustrated, pissed off, overwhelmed, worried, stressed, or feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to be a better parent, you're going to be a better lover, you're going to be a better business person, you're going to have a better life. So my soliloquy is, decide. Decide today. And actually say, what if I cut it off? What if I said, I'm not willing to settle and I'm just going to live in a beautiful state? Doesn't mean you won't feel bad. It means you won't stay there. You instantly change. But what the hell is success? It's hitting an expectation. And I always tell people, man, trade your expectations for appreciation, and it's a whole new world instantly. If you can appreciate this moment, if you can't find ecstasy in this moment, in a conversation with a friend and looking in your wife's eyes, being with your children, going on a run, if you can't find ecstasy now, I'm here to tell you, more money, more people, more love, more business, more anything is not going to give you more ecstasy. If you can't do it here now, you're not going to do it there when you got more. So why not do it now and have a rich life right now? I tell people, money, that's one thing. Like having financial abundance, there's skills. That's a science. But wealth, it's a decision. It's like you can be wealthy right now. I live in Fiji a good portion of the time. There are these villagers there. They're the richest people I know. They're happy, they laugh, they love, they don't give a damn about the economics. Other people say they're poor. When I first went there, I was trying to do things for them. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm so happy. Wealthy people come over from the United States and they go travel around and try to figure out what to do, and they're going to spend 9 years to do this and this and this so they can finally sit down and be happy. And the Fijian guy goes, why don't you sit on the beach right now, dude, and experience it? Why spend the 9 years? Why not have it now? That's my invitation.